Hello everyone, this is Richard from shorttermrentalsecrets.com and Airbnb Superhost. Today I'm coming to you from Singapore with my good buddy John Lin. We just invested in a deal together in Bali. We covered some of that footage on the YouTube live that I did a little bit earlier. We have videos coming about that, so if you're interested in that deal, there's other videos that are more appropriate. But I wanted to just sit down with John, who's a very successful entrepreneur. We've known each other since college. We went to Cornell University together. You graduated in 1990, I graduated in 1991. John was instrumental back then in helping me get a job actually at the Mercantile Exchange, the Chicago Board of Trade, and in a trading organization. And he continues to run a trading organization that does all sorts of high-speed, algorithmic market making here in Singapore, and we can talk about that in a minute. But basically, the point of this video and why I wanted to film this outside of the deal itself is to just talk about teamwork and networking and relationships and how they may open doors and how it's really important. And it's new for me personally. All of the deals that I've done before in real estate have been in-house. I've done them myself with my ex-wife, and so that's a natural partnership, and I guess it does require teamwork, but that's different. This is the first time that I've worked with an outside partner. And actually, there's a third partner that's not represented here, Olivier. He lives in Bali, and so since we're in Singapore, he couldn't be here. But I thought it was kind of interesting to talk about a new deal, a new paradigm, working on a team, some of the challenges and some of the risks, and also some of the opportunities it presents itself. So John, why don't you tell us in a more intelligent fashion what it is that you do, recognizing that most people won't get it because I don't even get it.
Well, I've been trading since 1990. I was an open outcry pit trader up until 2005. Flashing signals, colorful jackets, best job in the world. I really loved it.
Right?
Totally fun, totally independent. Really you against everybody. It was a job that actually honed certain skills, which I think made me a better leader, a better person. And those would be notions like having low ego, understanding honor, right? Understanding the value of working with other people. So in 2006, I started my company called Grasshopper. Now we have about 60 people. We are effectively high frequency algorithmic traders. That sounds really fancy. But in a nutshell, I feel like I run a tech company. I feel like I run a data company. But in its essence, I really run people. That's my trade now. I try to make people better. I try to empower them. I try to get them to their fullest potential. And of course, I try to have the right people, right? That's a predicate to everything. That is what I do right now. I don't trade anymore, but I still love what I do.
Yeah, and one thing that I want to talk about, because I look back on those days when I was a pit trader as well, very fondly. It was a lot of fun. It was a very challenging and grueling physical environment. I went to business school actually to get off the trading floor, use the same sort of methodology and intellect and apply it from a desk as opposed to the floor, and you're pretty much doing that now. But one of the things that I look back on as far as the lessons learned, and I think it's an incredibly unique opportunity that we did so on the trading floor, was the ability to remain calm during periods of total chaos and disruption and noise. I mean, there's sensory overload during unemployment Fridays when the market's going crazy. There's so much screaming and shouting and physicality and lights and flashing and craziness. And yet you have to remain completely focused, singular on your position or what you're trying to do, and your head has to be clear, and you have to be able to compute, complex numbers. And to operate in that environment, that's very unique. There's not a lot of businesses, I don't think, that require that skill set. And I find myself leaning on that skill set all the time during periods of chaos or disruption or uncertainty. I'm just kind of you got this, you can do this, stay calm.
Right, it's like staring into the abyss and seeing what stares back, right? That's the downside of that is you tend to be intensely focused. And that was me for the majority of my life. The skill that I've probably developed in the last 10 years is sort of spreading that focus out, being much more circumspect, especially when you have to deal with other people. I mean, that's one of the toughest challenges is dealing with people. people are complex. People you think are predictable, but at times they're very unpredictable. And that's one of the things that I extrapolated. People say markets are nothing more than a reflection of the people that are driving those buys and sells. So inherently in a market is a certain level of chaos. As I got off the floor, as I started managing people as a company much more, I learned the hard way how to extrapolate that lesson.
It's not easy.
Yeah, it's not easy.
It's not
totally
easy.
not easy.
And one thing that you said, and I very strongly and firmly believe this, and I tell this to my team as well, is, a leader's job is not to get jobs done or to get people to execute their vision.
That's a manager's job.
Yeah, that's a manager's job. A leader's job is to create other leaders, right? To empower people to grow and grow the organization in ways that you couldn't. And that's sort of the point of teamwork, right? Like, you and I and Olivier are creating a much greater opportunity set for us individually and for our families and for our legacy than any one of us could have done on our own, right? Like, I couldn't afford this deal alone. I couldn't have bought the land alone. Olivier could have bought the land alone because he's geographically located, but he couldn't do the financing. You may have been able to do the finance. Like, we need each other just to get the deal done. And then what we actually develop, once again, we bring different sets of background, opportunity, vision to the project. And as a consequence, I'm really excited not only for this deal to see how it goes and what we develop, but also opening up my eyes to future deals with you, hopefully, and Olivier and or others. And if you stop and think about it, since this is a real estate related channel, almost every large realtor, real estate development company, hotel company, it's all about partnerships and joint venture, and it's such a asset-rich environment that it's almost impossible to do it on your own. Very few people actually do it on your own. So this is, like, for me, eye-opening in the sense that, okay, I found like-minded people. We seem to get along. We've got a similar vision. The devil's going to be in the details and as we execute, but I'm confident that we're going to do great at that. But now it's kind of like, wow, there's a whole world of real estate opportunities and joint ventures, and hopefully we just developed this little circle like we talked about in the last video where we all invest in this deal. We use the same design architect, whether it's in Bali, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Costa Rica, and we just sort of like make this scalable model changed for the local conditions, the environment, the aesthetic, but like we create this new infrastructure.
It's a very trader's kind of view, right?
Yep.
Which is just let it meander. We had the intent as we started talking through it, and then as we meandered along, it became more clear. Oh, this guy could be a very potential good supplier of the houses, which are traditional Indonesian joglos, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that guy knows this guy. This guy has the right skill set in aesthetics, but does he have the right spirit? True enough, he has the right spirit. Oh, he also happens to know a ton of people in his tribe that could be very interested in the very project that we're doing. Now you're starting to create a circular business arrangement where the guy who designs it actually has the people and he's supplying you with people. The other guy who's supplying the houses might have a vision to prepackage this idea and sell off by container load joglos to Costa Rica.
That's right.
I think it's really quite brilliant. The third partner we have does a lot of recycling. You can brand it as a thing for that. He's also a big wave surfer, so now you can pull in surfers to it. Sometimes not being too planned is actually a better thing. I would say this though, everyone involved it seems very, very competent, and that's a prerequisite. But overly planning is not always a good thing.
Said slightly differently, being open.
That's right.
And then seeking partnerships and teamwork, which is sort of the point of this episode, is maybe uncomfortable for some. I know it was uncomfortable for me, right? Like, I've grown and matured as an individual. I've grown and matured as a leader.
Yeah, I don't like partners. In general, I like doing things myself.
Me too.
I like being in charge. I like doing it my way. But you have to be open to it.
Is this a first for you?
Well, I did the partnership with Olivia to get the
That's
land,
true.
but in terms of the magnitude of this one, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and this is a first for me too. And that's why we wanted to capture this, because here you have two relatively successful people that have, started and launched firms, have been successful in a variety of different things, led organizations, have real estate holdings across the country, the world, really, between the two of us. And this is the first time, I'm 47 years old today, that I'm partnering with an outside person. Heretofore, in all of my businesses, I've turned down all the investors and outside money and people that have approached me. I've never tried to raise money, and I've always turned it down because I wanted the full control and ownership.
This is what I liked about how we networked this whole thing. We did not intentionally network anything. We just reconnected through social media. We went and had a good time. We're hanging out in the surf. We're talking about bullshit about random things going on, and then it's really true networking. I start to see his intent, how he views the world, how he treats his family, how he treats his employees, how he wants to live his life, and vice versa.
Yep.
And the same with the third partner. And then what you realize is you're not actually business networking, you're putting together people that have the same view of life, their same view of integrity, the same view of reaching potential. That to me was much more powerful than an IRR based on the land and any kind of thing like that. That is why I'm in on this. That said, those things are not blind to me. Those metrics are not are not opaque to me. But the beauty of it is, like, when you put together a good team, and let's assume we can execute well, the chances of getting a great return just come. And the other good thing that we're good at as traders, I think, by pedigree, is that we've done a pretty good job of limiting our downside. So this is not something we couldn't really afford. This is not something that we couldn't take down those houses and resell them back. They're commodities, they're assets. That's why I love the Joglos, right? And for sure, we already know that the land is going to increase in potential with the roads that are being put in, et cetera, and then the development in that area. So we know our downside, and now it's time to get to the upside.
And what's kind of interesting, thinking about the teamwork, as you were just talking about it, I was thinking about it. Not only do we each bring a certain element to the project itself, so maybe I've got more Airbnb experience than John and Olivier. Well, Olivier has more Bali experience. John has more liquidity. We also take comfort from that strength, and we reassure each other in that teamwork, right? So, like, to be perfectly honest, I don't know very much about Balinese law or land or inheritance rules or the ownership of this where we lease it back. But Olivier knows a lot about that, and I trust Olivier in that, and he's going to document that and get me really comfortable with it. Olivier does
the people who can find it. Right?
Yeah, but my point is, my blind spot where I have a hole, what would cause me to not do the deal, he's got expertise and comfort and can figure it out and comfort me. You said earlier that you didn't really want to be in a traditional hotel, and neither do I. And maybe I can add value in that, like, look, Airbnb is here to stay. I know people that are monetizing it every single day. I'm personally doing it. And the thing that would keep you away from developing the deal, I'm comforting you, right? And that's sort of like the point of the teamwork. We're not three people that are doing the exact same thing. And there's something to be said for partnering with people that are very similar to, if you need more money, perhaps. If you need 3x the income, then maybe bring those people together. But in this particular case, we have 3 different people that live on 3 different countries with 3 different backgrounds that are looking to do the same deal, right?
Spots.
Exactly.
I think that's actually pretty important. Sometimes when you put together people that are too like-minded, you have a collective blind spot.
Exactly.
That's lethal. That is really lethal. So I think it's really important to have people that come in and tell you, especially if you do something in a developing country, a lot of things are not that clear. It requires a little bit of street smarts, a little bit of faith to get anywhere. If you don't have it, do not go. Don't even start, because you'll freak out about it. But,
can I give an example of that? So we were meeting with somebody yesterday, and he was like, listen, there's corruption in Indonesia, and it's just sort of part of the fabric, and if you're not comfortable with that, that's a problem. But just realize that there's a stack of papers this high, and it's going to take you 2 years before you get the permit or whatever. But for some nominal amount, your stack of papers can get pushed to the top, which makes all the sense in the world. And he's like, frankly, I kind of like it. It's the unwritten rules, but like, if you know that and you have the right connections, like you can get it done. Now, we're not talking about doing anything illegal or anything like that. We're just sort of saying there's ways to get things handled that are more expeditious. In the US, we do it all the time. Like, here's an expediter and pay the expediter fee and so on. It's just legalized and taxed.
I think it's important wherever you go, you don't impose your own rules
Right.
onto their ecosystem.
You lean on your partners
This is
for
just
their
the way
local
it's done in
expertise.
Indonesia. You have to understand it. You can complain about it, but I would say don't complain about it. Put up with it and take advantage if you can.
And from
Do it-
my
do it legally,
perspective,
yeah.
from my perspective, it's uncomfortable, right? Like, I don't know that. I'm kind of like, ooh, I don't know if I want to touch that. But if I do that too much, I'm going to miss out potentially on a life-changing opportunity. One, to develop these friendships. Two, to have this vision. And I'm super excited about this project from like a creative perspective, right? Like, I love the Airbnb aspect of it and the financial return aspect of it, but I also historically have done a really, really good job of developing, renovating, land to build, and that creative outlet for me is really awesome. And this property is like a huge blank canvas. I'm super excited about it, and so to like be stopped out because I can't get comfortable quickly enough with Indonesian law or the way that they get piles of paper moved around. It's like, you know what? I have an expert in that. His name is Olivier, and John has familiarity with it. He did the deal years ago, so I'm gonna just, chill and
This is
get
why we should always be
comfortable.
building our network.
Right.
Not necessarily in a business sense, but building a network of people that you trust.
Which is why social media is so important, right? Like, you and I reconnected after 15 or however many years off via Facebook.
Yep.
You posted some cool, interesting stuff. I liked it. I posted some cool, interesting stuff. You liked it. Next thing you know, we're...
No one would ever have guessed just a month ago that we would be doing this, right?
No.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you had asked me a year ago, when are you going to see John next? I'd be like, oh, when he comes to New York at some point.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought I'm going to go to Bali for 3 weeks. And you, when you invited me to Bali, which was so gracious, thank you, probably didn't expect me to be like, yeah, I'll come the whole time. Right? So, it is what it is. So any other thoughts on like teamwork or empowering employees or not letting your blind spots hinder you?
I think really you are bound to innovate, and how people look at teams traditionally in the 70s, 80s, I think that is kind of dead. You really have to figure out how the landscape is changing. And personally, my big realization of the last year or two, being also 48, is that it's so easy to just not see the sand shifting beneath your feet. It is shifting so fast.
Yeah.
I think it's an opportunity. I relish it. I think it's going to be fun. But certain things are tried and true. Get good people around you. See the vision. Have a low ego. That's all I would say. It's such an exciting time. If you don't see the excitement, you are not looking in the right spot.
That's totally true. And the one thing that I would say that's been really helpful for me, I think, in trying to get those good people around me, is to just add value. Like, don't worry about
give value away for free.
Don't worry about what the
Don't worry
return on
what
the
you get in
investment
return.
is. Like, I was advising you guys about Airbnb and so on, not because I was trying to like muscle into the opportunity, but just because I thought like, gee, you guys might do better this way. And next thing you know, it's kind of like, well, you're the expert. What? Or this YouTube channel.
I think
don't
what
know
I
what
realized is that content is actually cheap. It should be given away.
Right.
It should be given away with positive intent, and then you will capture later.
That's right. And value added, we were meeting with Nico, who's the landscape architect that we're likely to work with. Turns out he's got 1 or 2 Airbnbs currently. He's developing 2 or more. I said, go to the YouTube channel, check it out. They binge watched, he and his son. They're changing the titles, they're doing all stuff. And now, guess what? He wanted to work with us before, but my gut tells me that he's more inclined to want to work with us on this project and future projects, right? Like, he views us as like adding value to him.
Totally.
And that's great, right? Like, if we all add value to each other, you're going to get better people, more teamwork, more success, and just be open to it, right? Don't be closed-minded. Don't be so prescriptive on like, well, this is the way I always do it. I always do things personally. You know what? I've always done things personally. I'm seeking new opportunities and new experiences. I'm open to it, right?
Right on, brother.
Cool. So listen, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Go ahead and like it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'd really appreciate that. And if you're not a member of our Facebook group, do that too. shorttermrentalsecrets.com. Thank you so very much. Have a great day and happy hosting.